Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. We have a fat 12-game Wednesday night slate here for you in the NBA tonight. In this one, we are taking a look at the Hawks headed to Charlotte, taking on those Hornets. 240 roughly total right now that we'll be taking a look at. I think we might still like the over. Make sure you check out Nate's great article up on playpicks.com as well with some best bets and player props in there for you. And like and subscribe to that page. We've got a couple other videos up for you today, including that player props video. We'll look to stay 7-1 on the week and well above 500 as we move forward. And make sure you're checking out thelines.com, staying on top of who is coming in and out of those lineups up until game time tonight. Checking out that props tool that we have, making sure you're getting the best juice on your money there. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or a DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, the Hawks started at +2 here, but they've been bet up to now -1. It might continue to swing in their favor. Still got a good reputation after making that Eastern Conference Finals, but they have not been that reliable lately. The total is also getting bet up a little bit. I mean, it opened around 238, now 239.5. Might continue to rise a little bit. 11 other games on the slate, as you mentioned. The other game we break down, Philly -4 in Cleveland. Total around 220 there. We do like both Philly. I like the over. Josh warns you about that Cavs offense, but we like the over. Nuggets -6.5 at Washington. The Mavs are now -3 at Brooklyn as people start to realize Kyrie Irving will not be playing after his 60-point game. The Blazers are +12 at the Knicks. Suns -11 at Rockets. Lakers +10 at Wolves. Wow, that totals up to 242. The Thunder are +13.5 at the Spurs. Bulls +5.5 at Jazz. Bucks -9 at the Kings. Celtics +2.5 at Warriors. And the Raptors are -1 at the Clippers. So pretty much a pick'em game here for Charlotte and Atlanta. It's really a feast or famine situation, I think, when these teams play because of their high propensity for shooting threes. But, if you get the feast version, I think this will clear 250, to be honest. I mean, that's what the Hornets have been doing lately. Going over in 4 of their last 5, the under was against the Celtics, who are the best defense in the league right now. And the overs went over by an average of 18.5 points per game. In that span, Charlotte has a 124 offensive rating, a 120 defensive rating, giving up 120 points. They're second in true shooting at 62%. And Brooklyn is the only team with a better true shooting percentage because they played the Hornets in that span. And Kyrie Irving put up a historic line in that span. I mean, both these teams allowing about 38% from 3 in their last 5. And both are shooting a ton of threes. In Charlotte, particularly hot in their last 2 wins, 21 for 41 from deep. But they're giving up plenty of production down low, 53 paint points, allowing 60 points per game and scoring 67.7 in the second half in their last 3 games. So if this starts in some sort of sputtering fashion, you might want to think about betting that live for the over. These teams should continue to score down the stretch, but really that's more about feeling good pregame. And the other reason to feel good about points here is that John Collins is out again for the Hawks now with a finger injury. This season, their defensive rating skyrockets from 114 to 120 without JC, and they score a lot more, 118.6 points per game, hitting 13 threes at a slightly higher pace. Look, he missed their last 2 games. Those games averaged 247. They posted a 132 defensive rating against the Pacers. They could not stop anybody without their versatile power forward. And then they played at a pace of nearly 105 with Portland. So Trae Young going off for 46 points in both those games. And so, his absence kind of unlocks Trae in terms of you don't need 2 pick and roll partners out there for Trae Young. You just need Clint Capella and you need floor spacers. And that's what they've gotten lately, the Hawks, and they've been lighting it up. Trae has pretty good numbers against Charlotte, dropped 30 in his last trip to Charlotte. That game went under kind of because of an anomaly. Charlotte went 4 for 36 from 3. So, I mean, it is so feast or famine that I would consider, if you're scared of the 240 and you might want to bet the under, just bet an alternate under at like 230 and take plus 230 odds there. It's a division game. They could figure each other out to a degree and hold them in check. I think it would go way under if it goes under. I think it'll go pretty comfortably over if it goes over. But I do lean towards the over because of Collins being out, because of the Hornets playing no defense lately, and because of how efficient the Hawks are when Trae Young is able to do what he does. And also like the Hawks to win, mainly just because Charlotte 2-12 against the spread their last 14 home games. That goes all the way back to their last loss against Atlanta. And they're 3-14 against the spread in their last 17 versus teams in playoff position. Atlanta, while they're sitting right at 500, they're still a better team, and they have the better player in Trae Young in terms of setting up that offense.
Yeah, they do. I think it's a good night for Trae and Clint Capella as well. Those points in the paint for Clint, that awful defense for the Hornets down low. That's things you can really like. I mean, Clint Capella has been definitely dominating the Hornets over the last few times that they've played them, dating back to last season. He has at least 13 rebounds in all of their last 5 matchups. So I believe this is another opportunity for him. There's not really, once again, anybody down low for Charlotte that we've continued to eye. I think to your point about John Collins, the extra spacing that kind of comes from him not being on the floor tonight should lead to a lot more Trae Young and a lot more assists as well for Trae, who has 46 plus points in both of his last 2 games, by the way, as you mentioned. So I think we can expect that to continue tonight. I kind of like what I'm seeing from the rest of the Hawks as well over their last 5 games or so. You've got Trae up above roughly 32 points a game in that time frame with 10 assists as well. But then you look at the scoring behind him, and you've got that consistency that really helped the Hawks last season when they were super healthy, which was rare. But now they've been healthy again with DeAndre Hunter back, Kevin Huerter, Danilo Gallo, and then Bogey, who's been down a bit in terms of his points per game. But all 5 of those guys are playing about 25 to 35 minutes a game, and all of them are averaging above about 13 points a game. Clint also coming in as a double-digit scorer. They got a couple guys behind them scoring 9 points a game. So I like the even scoring for Atlanta, which is if Trae is going to continue to score 35 plus points a game, and you're going to get 10 to 15 points from 5 to 6 other guys. You've got to feel good about points there as well. They're not relying on that 3-point shot, or the Hawks. They're definitely driving a lot more. It's not scoring that high of a percentage of their points off of 3, but shooting an incredible percentage from 2 over their last 5 as well, up above about 52% as a team. So that really, really good shooting numbers there. Charlotte, it does seem like they're back in terms of just go and try to outscore teams and see how it goes from there. They've gone over in 4 of their last 5, including 3 of those being at home. The only under really came against the C's, who we know are a defensive juggernaut right now at this point. Once they added Derek White, it got even more ridiculous on defense for them and that size that they have. So I think that was definitely another sort of anomaly for the Hornets. They're not playing the Celtics tonight. They're playing the Hawks, who give up a ton of threes. That's where Charlotte's been scoring from as they've been going off and increasing that pace back up into the top 10 after falling out in pace for a while there, and that helped their defense. But now, like I said, we're back to the team that we know, and they are who we thought they were essentially, right? So I don't love the fact that the Hawks haven't had that much success against the Hornets. I honestly don't really love touching this spread at this point. I would prefer the Hawks if I were going to take anybody. But I think this is a moment in time. To your point, it's just a really interesting game. I'm glad we're talking about it because this is a game that you said it's either feast or famine. It's going over 240 or it's going close to 230 or under. So I would prefer that. These games have gone under between these two teams mostly in their last 5 matchups. They've gone under 4 times, and those totals, outside of that one over earlier this season that was in Atlanta, by the way, because as we know, Atlanta scores about 7 more points per game at home. They give up about 4 or 5 more points per game on the road. So they're definitely a team that you'd like to score and win more when they're at home. And like I said, 4 of those 5 going under, including all of the last 3 in Charlotte going under, well under in their last one earlier this January, which had a total of about 234. And that in terms of the total that was set, and the score of the game ended at about, barely 200, 204 or so. So, this is a situation where I think I prefer hitting that under. I think I prefer the famine, and I'm going to zig a little bit, according to, if you want to play recent history, the last 2 versus Atlanta going way over, the last couple, and the last 2 for Charlotte, both going way, way over for both these teams. But we're talking about games against the Pellies and the Thunder, and the Pacers and the Blazers. And I think that these 2 teams are going to not necessarily be able to necessarily keep that level of offense up the entire time, as those other teams are selling out to just play offense. I think the Hawks they're still trying to win games. They're still trying to make a name for themselves in the playoffs, and that's not going to be the case tonight for them to be able to just score like that. If I can get this under about 235 even, or so, and I'm fine with that, honestly.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the moxie thinking under in this situation. And like I said, yeah, you might as well be bold and call way under. But it really just comes down to how teams shoot from 3 in this situation. I mean, both teams score about 120 when they do win, and Charlotte giving up 120 regardless of the situation. So True. If Trey starts to cook, it's kind of conflicting forces, right? In that the Hawks don't score on the road, but they score and they shoot so well when John Collins is out. Yeah. And Trey shooting 48% from 3, hitting 12 strays in his last 2 against Charlotte. If he starts to do that, then Charlotte's going to come right back. And there is the potential for the over. But I mean, the Hawks do have success in terms of beating this team. They've won 3 of the last 4.
True.
They've won 3 of the last 4 in Charlotte as well, dating back a few seasons.
Fair.
So I think, if you do want to bet something and stay away from the total, it should be the Hawks, as we're seeing, despite the fact that they failed to cover in 5 straight road games. They did cover in Charlotte, as I mentioned, back on January 23rd.
Yep.
And again, Charlotte struggling against good teams to cover in these spots, especially without Gordon Hayward. I will note that they're 15-8 to the over when favored. They're no longer favored, though. But those games have gone over by 7.7 points per game. So there is certainly a case for this turning into a shootout. Atlanta just so much worse defensively on the road. But the way they're able to light it up with Trey leading the charge, you think there's a chance they win a game in the 120s here.
Yeah, it's likely. And I think one more thing, as I was mentioning at the top there, just looking at a few of the players and some props that you might consider. Clint Capella, once again, going back to him, I just think he's a bad matchup for the Hornets everywhere. Like we said, 13 plus rebounds in all of the last 5 matchups that he's had against Charlotte. His player prop is at 12.5 boards tonight, and the point prop sits at about 10.5, I believe, for him. So I would consider taking either of those. Honestly, I might just hit the rebounds, but if you want the points and rebounds combined at about 23.5, I wouldn't tell you not to take that either, as I think he's going to get a ton of boards. There is going to be pace tonight. There are going to be a ton of shots taken, especially on Charlotte's side. So I think that this is a good opportunity for some Clint stuff. And look, obviously some Trey stuff. I'm not making a bold prediction there. The guy has gone completely nuts as of late, and he does that as well against Charlotte. So make sure you're checking those player performance doubles if you do like the Hawks to win over there on FanDuel, as you'll get some good juice considering it's such a small spread tonight for the Hawks. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. You can check out those other couple videos we have on this 12-game NBA slate tonight. And until we see you next, happy betting.